Hello my friends, this is umonox, and in today's tutorial it's about how we can create some drum sounds with the Arturia Minibrute 2S by making extensive use of the patch matrix and the sequencer as well. So first things first, I will offer these sounds that we will create as samples, so you can download them and use them for your own stuff. And by the end of that video, I think we will also do a little bit of a jam with these things, maybe with the Digitakt or with the Octatrack, I have no clue. Let's see when we get there. Okay, so first I want to make a kick drum with this thing, and to get started I will quickly do some wiring, because at the moment, okay, I don't hear anything. We have just a synth. Okay, so let's get these things started now. For a kick drum, we need some sort of a pitch envelope to make one of these pitches rise, start very high, and then drop extremely fast. So we get kind of a kick sound, but we also need some sort of a body for that kick drum. And I found out while fiddling around with that Minibrute 2S, I found out that the sine wave on this second oscillator right here, the sine wave is actually not really, it's not totally clean. It does have a little bit of a click. This is something we have to consider once we start building that kick drum. And what I want is I want to have this, this second oscillator completely separated from everything. And to do this, I first take a patch cable, plug the output of that second oscillator into my first input on the VCA. Now, strange, isn't it? I can still hear it, and this is also something which is quite unusual, I must admit. I would expect, if I put something out here and throw it in somewhere else, I would expect that this thing will now disappear from the actual signal chain, but it doesn't. So it's still there. So to make sure that we really only hear what we put out here, is we have to turn it down here. Now it's completely gone, and to get it back, we take the output of that VCA and plug it into the master input right here. But have a listen, when I do this now, constant sound. So we need something to control that thing with an envelope, and for this purpose I want to use an envelope from the sequencer with the help of this velocity track. And to do this, I take another cable and first use the velocity mod, plug it into the CD mod. Now you might probably still hear something. Let's have a look. Okay, no, we don't hear anything anymore. Let's go to that velocity track. Keep velo pressed and dial on this. You can see we are choosing different things, and here is what we need. This thing is called envelope. And now I have the option to shape the envelope for that sound. But the problem is the sequencer has to run for this to work. I have to set a step also on that pitch track, and the sequencer has to run for that to work. So have a listen. See? You can dial on this thing. Okay. To shape what we need some kind of an envelope which has a little bit of an attack to it and which is a little bit longer, and also we need a much lower octave, a much lower pitch, I mean. And to get that, let's just do this. Make it longer, and to shape that kick sound a little bit better, I will also reduce the length of the sequencer now. So I play last step and hit number 5 here, but I also have to do this here. So both of all of these tracks are now running just to number 5, and you see, this pitch and gate are connected in that respect, and velocity and pressure are connected as well. So yeah, now we can shape this thing. I hold shift and dial on this button knob to bring the attack in that I need. Just slightly, you know. can also see nothing's happening when I'm doing anything here, but it's still there. So yeah, just remember to keep these things down once you take them out here, either this one or these. So yeah, now we have a kind of a fundament for what we want, and the next thing is, I'll also make it louder, let's see, gets distorted a little. Yeah, just for now. And what I now want to add the actual attack portion on top of it. And I think that I'm using this triangle wave for that purpose, because a while ago, as I've tried this out, it turned out that it's actually quite usable for that purpose. So let's use the ADSR envelope first, and let's plug it into the pitch. Now things are getting weird. Have a listen. Isn't that strange? I took the ADSR output, so just make it like this. And this pitch track, as you can see up here, I hope you can see it on that video, this pitch track is controlling the pitch of that second oscillator. And this is something weird, because I haven't changed anything on the pitch here. You see, it's still the same note. But somehow, yeah, once I put something into this pitch input from the first oscillator, it does not only affect the first oscillator, but it also affects the second one as well. So I may have to look in the manual if there is some sort of a internal wiring that can't be broken, whatever you do, and that leads to this behavior. But it's not that hard to fix. I just put the keyboard inside here and plug it into the pitch, and now we should be ready again. It's obviously a little bit. Now we are back. So let's go in and let's add that top layer. I want to affect the pitch of that first oscillator, but first I want to make sure that I hear it. So let's turn it up. Because I have a pitch step, it's also triggered, as you can hear. And now comes the thing, I quickly put it out just to hear the first oscillator only, because now I want to shape that kick on top. The AD envelope by default is still working on the amp, as you can see right here. So I can use it for that one. Just a little bit. And now let's plug this thing back in. Sounds a little bit weird, so let's try making a high pass filter out of our Steiner Parker filter here. Maybe shaping it out, and let's see. This is really sensitive here. I have a little bit of a kick inside. No, I think it's too much again. And now I want to do something to my second oscillator with its envelope, because I think that it needs a longer attack. Let's have a listen. It sounds weird. So let's actually reduce that attack. This is always trial and error. Yeah, let us run for a while, and I will take I think I'll take at least the one that I think is most suitable from these recordings for the kick drum that I do. But yeah, that's basically how we can shape a kick with that Minibrute 2S. And next up, things are getting a little bit easier, because next up we will do some sort of a hi-hat or something. And yeah, this is what we do next. Okay guys, so let's focus on creating that hi-hat. And this is actually rather simple. If we have a look, we have a noise on the Minibrute 2S, and we will use exactly this noise to shape a hi-hat. So first let's see where we left off. I've removed all the cables and everything in the meantime. And let's just quickly have a listen what we have so far. Ooh, this is pretty dang loud. So this is our, that's our triangle wave. So here's the noise. And as you can hear, it's already kinda suitable. But I want to switch to the high pass filter up here, because I think that the noise with this low end that is inside, yeah, it's not so pleasing to the ear, I think. So let's have a listen and check it out. Yeah. I would love having this a little bit brighter, but it seems that they've used some kind of pink noise or anything rather than actual white noise, so it's not as bright as it should be, in my opinion, but we take it like this. Should be fine, I think. So let's just, take any of these things as our hi-hat. Now you may also have noticed that I've switched from gate to trigger right here. When I switch this to gate, the note and the sound is held for as long as I keep the note pressed, and when I release the note, that decay is working more like a release. Have a listen. When I switch it to trick, however, the AD envelope is triggered only once. So it goes through the attack, the decay portion, and when it stops. No matter if I keep this button pressed or not. And this is basically kind of like a one-shot thing, and kind of suitable for the sounds that we have when we do drum sounds. Okay, now we could work further on this. Let's see if we can find something else. I have no clue what I'm doing, I must admit that, because these things are all trial and error. So let's get started and let's try out if we can build something on top of that hi-hat. Sounds a little bit weird with that frequency modulation, so let's see. That's interesting. Sounds a little bit distorted without actually being distorted. Okay, let's see. Doesn't sound too bad actually, so let's try something. Let's disconnect this from our oscillator here, and yeah, let's see what we can do with it. So first I take a patch cable and let's see which one is this one. Yeah, but that saw wave sounds better, so let's take this into our VCA, take the output to our master, yeah, obviously. So we first need to make sure that it is triggered. Then just clear the pattern. I have no clue if I did something yesterday. Switch this to the envelope again, much like we did it before, you know. And also last step on 4 should do. Oops. And let's place a trigger right here. So we are where we need to be. And now let's plug that thing into the master, and we don't hear it unless we press play. We are on the velocity track. Now we can control that decay independently. With our noise. And here comes a cool thing. As I've tried it just a second before, you may have noticed I also liked this sound. So this. These two sound quite cool, I think. And so I want to take that square wave and plug it into the second input of that VCA, and now both the saw and the square wave are mixed inside that VCA, and we can both hear them now, as you can see. But what we also hear is that both of these waveforms now have a pretty noticeable low end again. And this is because they are not running through the filter anymore. And to make sure that they run through the filter, instead of putting them into the master input, I put them into the external input. Now they are here, now they are there once I put this thing up, which is quite cool. And just have a listen. So they are affected by our filter again. And I can therefore dial in the noise. Just the way I like, you know. And one thing to consider in that respect is that with this external input running into basically the first VCO again, we not only make it running through the signal chain, through the filter and everything again, but it now is also dependent on the actual envelope controlling that amplifier, because it's inserted into the regular signal chain again. It therefore is affected by that envelope as well. So when we do things like this, we have to make sure that whatever we do on our sequencer here, these things that I'm now mixing in, their decay should not be longer than the decay that is actually set for the whole amplifier, because it cannot exceed it. I will quickly demonstrate this. See, I can make it shorter, but I can make it longer. No matter how long I make it, it will not exceed that value. This is something to consider when you do it that way, and this is basically that's the only drawback from this external input, in my opinion. But since I have just a little bit of a click, just a little bit of an exaggeration on top of that noise in mind with these things, for me it's working, because my actual noise sound is longer than the sound that I want from these oscillators. So in that case I can do it like this. So let's see where we can get to it. Maybe just a little exaggeration. Let's see if the attack works. Not so uninteresting, I think. And it's just better when the static, you know, this is without it. This is with it. It has a little bit of something on top, you know, just so that it's not too static. Okay. Let's also reduce that one. Okay, and let's now take, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these hi-hats with different decay lengths. Okay, so what should we do next? Well, first disconnecting all the cables again, because now I think that we could use some sort of a tom sound or anything, and our second oscillator right here is actually already suitable for that purpose. Can you remember that I've told you in the beginning that the sine wave coming from this one is not as clean as one would expect it? It has a little bit of a click on top, and we will use that to our to our advantage. And I think it's not even the sine wave. I think it's actually the filter that produces this click. But anyway, let's just go in and let's see. Nothing to hear because we still have our high pass filter active. So let's see. Do you hear this? There is a little click on top. I can get rid of it with Detect, but yeah, anyway. So let's tune this thing down. I think this is quite suitable for a low tom, isn't it? So let's actually record a low, a mid, and a high tom now, because this is already it, you know. It already sounds like a tom, and with an external synth or an external sampler, we can modify the decay later. But I want to keep a little bit of that thing inside, so I have the option to have it longer if I want to. So let's just do this. Let's use the octave switches to record, I think also 3 toms. Low tom, mid tom, high tom. Although I must admit that the high one doesn't actually sound like a tom, but anyway. Okay, so these are our toms, and next up I think we could do some sort of a snare drum, but in earlier tests, as I tried this out, I figured that it's a little bit tricky. And it will probably not sound like an actual snare drum itself. So I think we still have a look at it, should we? Okay, so like I said before, in my earlier tests, I wasn't really that happy with the snare drum that I can come up with this thing. So I will try to replicate the most simple and best compromise actually that I came up with, and I want to replicate the behavior of a snare drum similarly to how we created our kick drum, because with real drums it's working pretty similar. We have our kick drum has a very big body, so to say, and when you hit it with that kind of thing which is I don't know how this thing is called, so when you hit this drum it produces a relatively low tone. And similarly, the snare drum is usually quite small, smaller, and so it naturally produces a higher pitch. And somehow we can replicate this yet again with our second oscillator here and the sine wave set. So, but we cannot really replicate when you have a real drum, a real snare drum, and you take your stick and you hit it. That very hit is pretty hard to emulate with that Minibrute 2S. It's just not really working, so we basically only have our noise to do this. So yeah, but doesn't matter, we will still try to get it as good as we can. So let's get into it. First let's clear our pattern down here again, so we can start from scratch. And we have our second oscillator. So let's try to get a pitch which is close to how a pitch of a snare drum could be. Yeah, something like this. We just put the noise on top, however. We have the same problem like before, we need that filter, so let's switch it to the high pass. I would like to have that noise a little bit brighter, but I don't want the second oscillator to be affected by this. So let's just disconnect the second oscillator again, like we did before. Taking the output, plug it into the input. Take our velocity from the sequencer, plug it into the CV input and take our output from that VCA to our master input again. Now we need a pattern again, so let's go to our pitch and our velocity. Okay, velocity track already has a step now. Okay, cool. And let's make last step. And let's see. This one is running through, so I need to set the last step here as well. Okay, velocity has to be configured to, yeah, you've seen it before, to our envelope again. Now on that first step, let's see. Okay, the problem is we can still hear it. Okay, my trigger is gone. That's something weird always with that sequencer. Also somehow try to get a little bit of some more attack onto that noise, but it's really not that easy to do this. And let's try it on the low pass filter and see if that works. Yeah, that sounds a little bit better. Yeah, that's the high one, and that's a high pitch, I mean. Yeah, like I said before, I'm not really that happy with this one, but let's take a short break and let's have a listen again. Yeah, it's definitely not what I would call a snare drum, I would have to say, but let's see if we can fiddle more. Because obviously when the ear is hearing all of this over and over and over and over again, we might get a wrong image of the sound after a while. This is always a problem, so always making a little bit of a break and repeating the process, and we get a better idea. But I think it's pretty much as far as I would go now. I'm really not happy with that noise, I have to admit. Because for my taste, it's just a little bit, yeah, it's just not bright enough. It's pink noise as it seems, and well, this is not bright enough for my taste. But anyway, let's see. Okay, see if the brute factor does something to it. No brute factor. Sounds a little bit snappier. Yeah, come on, let's do it like this, I think. Should we? Yeah, I think it's okay. Let's keep it like this. I just can't let go, as you see. Yeah, it's like I said before, it's a little bit tricky getting a properly sounding snare drum out of this thing, but at least we get close. So let's take it like this. Let's play it one more time, and this is the thing that we will now use. Okay, maybe I can work on this with a compressor later, but I want to keep these things as dry as possible and not really modify these samples, so we have to use them the way they are. Okay. And finally, we could need some more percussion elements. And now comes the part where I really fiddle around and noodle around and everything. And yeah, you can skip that part if you want, because it's probably not so interesting for anyone. But since I do not know what I'm doing now, actually just disconnect everything. Yeah, this is interesting. I should sample that. Yeah, really guys, I have no clue what I'm doing now. I will just do something and record something at the same time, and take any of whatever I come up with as some percussion elements for this. So yeah, let's go in there and let's have a look what we can do. Not so uninteresting. Oh, that's dang hard. Yeah, come on, let's use these. Take a patch cable and, I don't know, take an LFO and plug it into the linear FM. Sounds pretty dope. No, it actually doesn't, but it should work. Yeah, come on. Let's record some of these. Let's try it with a high-pass filter. Yeah. And what else can we do? Let's disconnect these again and let's see. Maybe I should not use the second oscillator now and reduce the FM here. So we have basically, yeah, our basic oscillators again. Let's turn these down. Alright. Let's see. Just fiddling around. I've warned you guys. And let's let's synchronize these oscillators real quick. Let's see. Take an LFO into the FM. Interesting. Sounds interesting. So let's sample a couple of these. Yeah, okay. And I could do this basically forever, but I don't want to overdo it now because things can easily get on and on for ages, you know, and yeah, the videos would just be way too long. And we are already quite long, so I think we should keep that for now. But I hope this video has given you just a little bit of an insight how you can work with the Minibrute 2S to create drum sounds. And yeah, maybe you get on your own journey now and find a lot more sweet spots than I do in this short period of time. And if you take your time, you definitely find a lot more sweet spots, but it's really boring to watch and even more boring to listen to you guys on YouTube. So let's just stick to what we have right now. And next up, I will prepare these samples. And like I said before, I will not process them in any way, unless there really is something inside of that sample which has to be removed because it's just way too prominent. Something like these clicky things that we just did. I think some of these have to be rounded out a little bit, I think. But maybe I'm also not doing it. Let's see what I come up with. And after that, I will put that stuff on the Digitakt. I've now decided that I will use the Digitakt and do kind of like a little jam with this thing. So yeah, give me a little bit of time now and I'll be right back with that jam. Okay, my friends, here we are on the Digitakt, and just I quickly want to show you, these are the samples that I've loaded. These are the ones that we now use for that thing. Yeah, and these are actually the ones that we've created. And I took a couple more of these just to have, I don't know, like a little bit something. And some things that are shorter or some things that are longer. Okay, but yeah, I fiddled around a little bit more and I came up with a little jam, and I don't want to keep this from you. And yeah, have fun. So yeah, hope you liked it. And this is how we actually made some drum sounds on the Arturia Minibrute 2S, sampled them while we did it, and put them onto something like a Digitakt and made a little jam out of it. Yeah, as I said before, these samples are available for you. You can download them for free. The link is in the description below if you want to use them. And yeah, I would say I see you guys in my next video. And until then, have a great time, my friends. Bye.